Okay? It was saying somebody's got to stand up to the bully, punch him in the nose, bloody his nose, and put him back on his heels. You guys think you can be ruthless like at Ruby Ridge and Waco? Well, here's a little ruthless back at you. You see how you like it.
More of that never before heard interview with Timothy McVeigh himself will air in our 2-hour special documentary, which is called The McVeigh Tapes, Confessions of an American Terrorist. It airs next Monday, April 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on MSNBC. There was, and remains, of course, the confusing, sometimes maddening, seemingly not entirely ineffective federal bailout of Wall Street. Take a moment. Feel confused, then angry, then sort of relieved. Okay. Now there's also the Main Street, not Wall Street side of the financial rescue plan. The Treasury Department's foreclosure prevention plan, also known as the Making Home Affordable program. It was supposed to help millions of Americans avoid foreclosure by paying to modify their mortgages and lower their payments. To help reach that goal, to modify those loans, Treasury would use $50 billion in TARP funds. 6 months ago, the Congressional Oversight Panel for the TARP funds evaluated the Treasury's program and found, among other things, that many homeowners participating in the program did not avoid foreclosure. They only delayed it. And last month, the Inspector General for TARP said fewer than 200,000 homeowners had received permanent mortgage modifications. He warned that many folks were at risk of re-defaulting on their mortgages even after getting help from this federal program. Elizabeth Warren is the head of the Congressional Oversight Panel for TARP. A year ago, she gave the Treasury Department essentially a list of things they needed to do in order to get the foreclosure side of this thing right. 6 months ago, she warned that they weren't doing enough. Tomorrow, new report. You can tell just by looking around that the foreclosure crisis is not over. The Main Street side of the bailout? Joining us now for the interview is Elizabeth Warren, Harvard Law professor, chair of the Congressional Oversight Panel for the TARP bailout funds. Professor Warren, thanks very much for coming back on the show.
It's good to be here.
Did I get that roughly right? TARP was supposed to be trying to stop foreclosures at the same time that it bailed out the banks. Bailing out the banks basically worked, but the foreclosures part of it really didn't?
Actually, if you read the statute, what the statute talks about is not bailing out Wall Street banks. What the statute talks about is here's $700 billion to help repair the economy. Remember, it was supposed to be about troubled assets, mortgages that were in trouble. And it says, Congress says, the way we are going to measure the effectiveness of this program is what it does for unemployment, what it does for American savings, and really focus on what it does on home mortgage foreclosures, how it works to stop this crisis. That's what Congress said it wanted for its $700 billion.
So that's been your job as chair of the Congressional Oversight Panel, to monitor essentially what it's doing for unemployment and American savings and foreclosures. And the result is not positive.
Well, we are now 15 months after Treasury has announced its program and tried to get it up and running, and basically 167,000 families have gotten into some kind of modification that we hope will turn out to be permanent, although there are going to be some problems with that down the line. But just to put that in some context, every single month, 200,000 families are posted for foreclosure. That's where we stand right now. 167,000 over 15 months have received assistance under this program, and every month 200,000 families are posted for foreclosure.
This program works through lenders, works through banks and other lending institutions that have given people money through mortgages. What explains why more hasn't been done? Is it a poorly designed program? Is the government not doing enough, or are the banks and the lending institutions stopping it from working?
Well, we raised this issue when the program was first announced. We said we had problems about the scope of the program, problems about the scalability of the program, and problems with whether or not it was going to create permanent solutions. But let me say it in a slightly different way. In a sense, what this program is incentives put on the table to invite the financial institutions and the mortgage servicers to come to the table, please, to negotiate with the families who are facing foreclosure. And it is a program of limited scope, and it is a program that is a gentle program. And today, we heard from those large Wall Street banks. They went into Congress to testify about where they stood on mortgage foreclosures. And they basically said, don't push us too hard because we don't plan to cooperate. I mean, this is really a stunning response from large financial institutions. So we just have a real disconnect here about what it is that TARP is supposed to be, or at least originally was supposed to be about.
If incentives aren't enough, if what you describe as a gentle program isn't enough, could the same goals be achieved by making them do it? Could they be made to do it?
There are many tools that are available if Treasury wants to use them. The point so far is that Treasury has chosen to take a modest response on mortgage foreclosures. And you know, let me always remember the extra parts of this. Not everyone who's in a home should stay in that home. There are some people who really can't afford it and really should be moved out of those homes. This is about the group of people who could actually pay a reasonable amount on these mortgages, and everyone would ultimately be better off. But it's also about the rest of us in the economy. You know, even if you're not one of the 1 in 4 homeowners with a mortgage who's underwater, the value of your home is dropping when mortgage foreclosures keep occurring. It presses everybody's values down. And that has echoes throughout the economy. A huge part of our economy is the construction industry, which has ground to a halt and has huge unemployment in it right now. It has devastating effects on communities. Ultimately, we are going to have a very difficult time restarting our economy if we continue a downward spiral on home values because of the downward pressure with mortgage foreclosures. A year and a half ago, we bailed out large financial institutions on the argument that, you know, like it or not, we're all in the same boat economically, and we need to save those guys. And we did it. And they are now back to profitability, spending bonuses. But now we turn to the homeowners, the people who are also in real trouble, and it's having a real effect on the rest of our economy. And the response seems to be, well, we're not quite all in the same boat here. Those guys want to go their own way.
Wow. Elizabeth Warren, I have one last question for you, which is not about housing foreclosures. In the report you're putting out tomorrow, there's been speculation about President Obama's shortlist for the Supreme Court. Your name has been mentioned as a possible nominee. What's your response to that?
I'm working on a mortgage foreclosure report really hard right now.
Yeah.
It's an enormous honor even to have your name mentioned, but right now I just got to say I really have my nose hard down in the data on mortgage foreclosures. This is a problem we must fix.
Elizabeth Warren, Harvard Law Professor, Chair of the Congressional Oversight Panel for the TARP bailout funds. Thank you very much for coming on the show tonight, and good luck with the rollout of the report tomorrow. America is listening to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over the weekend, President Obama sat down with the president of Kazakhstan, who came to town to participate in the big nuclear summit. They met on Sunday. Last night, we speculated about what those two might have talked about.
So, how are things in Kazakhstan?
You know, we didn't find Borat funny.
Oh, me neither.
Turns out what they really talked about was way more important. Shocker. The National Security Council has announced that Kazakhstan actually agreed to allow U.S. planes carrying military equipment and troops to fly over their territory. That is important because if you're an American soldier, airman, or Marine headed to Afghanistan, here's how you would go right now, according to reports in the New York Times and the Air Force Times. And by the way, the real route is classified, so this is our little approximation here. You start on the East Coast and you fly to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Then you head southeast, passing over the Persian Gulf, then north through Pakistan to Afghanistan. A little cumbersome, right? Well, now with this new agreement, troops can leave from Chicago and fly over Canada, right over the North Pole, Russia, and Kazakhstan, right to Afghanistan. The new nonstop route expected to take a little over 12 hours door to door. Much more direct. No word yet on when the new flights begin. I'll be right back.